We're becoming more and more attached to our mobile devices. Our cell phones are literally a part of us that we, well, sometimes can't do without. We can't do without our email, we can't do without our calendar. Sometimes we can't even get from point A to point B without GPS and online maps that tell us how to avoid a traffic jam. But what do you do when you lose your phone? Or when it's stolen? Like happened with my wife just recently. That's what we'll talk about on today's episode of The Android Guy Weekly. So I've got a Samsung Galaxy Nexus, one of the unlocked variety. I've got it running on T-Mobile and I've had it since, well, it was released. I liked it so much that I got one for my wife. I paid a pretty penny for it. I went through Expansys and I had it imported and it cost me far too much money. About $750 US. And gave it to her as a gift and she loved it. I mean, this is a big phone. I have big hands and I thought, this is something that I can do, but she liked it. She liked using it. I went ahead and upgraded her from a T-Mobile G2 all the way up to a Galaxy Nexus. And she thought it was too big until she started using it. And then she really, really liked it. And she got over the fact that it's a big phone right away, which just might tell you that big phones aren't as bad as some people might make them out to be. They come in really useful, though one-handed operation kind of goes out the window, especially if you have smaller hands. That having been said, this phone became her lifeline. It was so much more useful, and she could do so many more things quicker and more intelligently than she could with the previous version of Android on a smaller screen. Even though the smaller screen had a slide-out keyboard, was something that she got used to pretty quickly and really adopted what I'd like to call the mini slate platform, the big smartphone. Well, she had her contacts, she had her phone, of course, she had her email and her calendar. The calendar is what was really important. And she even started using this as her alarm clock. Well, one Saturday morning, she woke up and went to pick up some fresh fruit at kind of like a farmer's market. It's a local co-op basket thing where you get a whole bunch of fresh fruits and vegetables. Well, being the supportive husband that I was, I slept in under the guise of taking care of the kids. Yeah, that's the story that I'm going to stick with. So I was home with the kids, taking care of them by sleeping, and she went and picked up this wonderful fresh fruit for us, fruit and vegetables. She came home and couldn't find her phone. Oh no, she had lost her phone at this baskets pickup. Well, that's okay. She spent the next 20-30 minutes frantically trying to find a phone number for someone that she could call that worked for the place and let them know, hey, I lost my phone while I was there. Can you help? Did anyone turn it in? Unfortunately, no one was available. It took days before we could get a hold of someone who worked there, and eventually no one had seen her phone, which was a problem. Well, in the meantime, we'd used Google Latitude, which was all we had on the phone, to try and locate it. And it was, 24th Street in Ogden, as far as we could tell, which we thought might have been the headquarters of this baskets co-op thing. Turns out it wasn't, and it turns out it wasn't even there. Now, why was it not there and it said it was? Well, when cell phones are reporting locations, whether that's to an application, whether that's to you looking at it on screen, whether that's Help Me Find My Lost Phone app, there are a couple different ways that they can report location. They can either report what's called a coarse location, which is essentially looking at Wi-Fi access points around them and cell phone towers around them that they may be connected to and saying, well, I know that if you're connected to this access point or this cell tower, you must be within 5 miles of it. Well, 5 miles, that's a pretty big radius. And actually, it was a little bit bigger than that. It was very, very coarse, and it went from the tops of the mountains out to the middle of the lake. We didn't know that because the circle on the map was so big, we couldn't tell that it was that big of an area to cover. It was really quite miserable, but we didn't know that at the time. Find location. Find location is where you're using GPS, the GPS chip and antenna in your phone, to get, well, really precise. Sometimes you can get within 5 to 15 feet, depending on your accuracy and where your phone is, if it has a clear view of the sky and whatnot. You can get really accurate and pinpoint. I can find out where my phone is in my house within a room or two. Is it in the front of the house, the back of the house, east or west? I can find out where it is. Doesn't help me with floors at all, so it might be on the bottom floor, it might be on the top floor, who knows? But in this case, it didn't help us that much, and by the time we realized that and went to put on some other app, like Plan B, we were too late. The battery was dead. So that's what happened in Chapter 1. So after going to this location and looking for it multiple times, and there was a tattoo parlor involved and a funky upscale salon with interesting people that didn't know anything about it, we weren't able to find the phone. She was diligent in trying. Luckily, we had a GSM plan, so I was able to call up T-Mobile and say, hey guys, can you please turn off this SIM, and I'm going to go pick up another one at my local store. Well, the local store said no problem. They confirmed I was who I said I was, and just handed me a new SIM. I popped that in an old Nexus 1, and she was up and running, and not a problem. Going from a Galaxy Nexus to a Nexus 1, not that pleasant of an experience. So she was motivated, and she decided, of all the phones that are out there today, I'd like another Galaxy Nexus. So she saved her money. Luckily, it was available through the Google Play Store for $3.99. Now, since then, it's dropped another $50, so fabulous there. But she saved up her money and went ahead and bought a new Galaxy Nexus. And the first thing that we did was we put Lookout Mobile Security on it so we could do a little bit more stuff with locating and pinpointing where things are, as well as doing remote wipes and other fun stuff that you can do with apps like that. And she got everything set up and everything was great. And then Chapter 3. We had some friends over. One of these friends has a teenage kid, and this teenage kid lost something in our couch. Well, he went fishing for it, and what did he find? Well, he found my wife's phone. Okay, well, she has a Galaxy Nexus, I have a Galaxy Nexus, they all look exactly the same. Pulled it out, it's dead, put it on the charger. We forgot about it. And then my wife tried to log into her phone and couldn't. And it was odd and interesting because it was kind of like her old phone. And we went looking, and sure enough, we have 3 phones. So either she lost the phone in the couch, or, and this is the story we're going with, whoever it was that found her phone felt guilty about trying to keep it for themselves. Somehow found out where we lived, snuck in, and put the phone in the couch somewhere that it would make it look like we might have lost it there, but we really didn't. And then we could find it at a later date, and then they snuck out again. Really, really creepy that could have happened. But what has that taught us? Well, first of all, Google Latitude is great for trying to find where someone is, but it's not really good for finding out where your phone is. Second, when you've lost your phone, minutes count. You've only got so much battery life, and as soon as that battery goes dead, chances are you're not going to find it again. Third, you want to make sure you have an app on there like Where's My Droid or Lookout Mobile Security, or one of the several others that you can find that will communicate with your device after you tell it to remotely, of course, and say, hey, this is where I am. And then they can either sound an alarm or give you a precise location or whatever the case may be. Again, as long as your phone still has battery in it and as long as it's still covered by some kind of a mobile network, whether that's voice or data, preferably data. But another thing to keep in mind, you've got to be using a SMS plan rather than something like Google Voice. Google Voice isn't going to work very well at all with these, so you've got to know the number of that phone, the phone itself, not the Google Voice number. But hey, whoever it was, they found the phone and sneakily gave it back to us. And we've got it back, and we learned some valuable lessons. And now, by sharing them with you, I hope you have too. If you've got some stories that you can share with us about how you've lost a phone and found it, or how you've lost a phone and had to get a new one and what you did to prepare for losing your phone in the future. We'd like to know. Head over to PocketNow.com and leave your comments down at the bottom of the article. For Pocket Now, sharing some embarrassing stories, I'm Joe Levi.